Welcome back, everybody. This is my entry into the 2019 Mopar Group Build, hosted by Mike's Mopar Scale Models. Thanks for that, Mike. I'll be doing the Lindberg kit, the Little Red Wagon. You can build this either stock or dragster version. After much deliberation, I decided to go with the dragster version, and these are the parts in the kit. Well, I've been making good progress on this Lindberg Little Red truck. I've got the roll cage mounted onto the chassis here, and I've got the front and back suspension on here. I've got the parts all cleaned up. Got this one seat put together and the tailgate. Got the rear drivetrain put together and the engine mostly together. This is just mocked up for now. I think all these are going to be painted black, and then I'll pick out and paint the engine. I have to check the color for the seat. I think it might be red. And hang on, and I'll be right back with the next part. So this is the next part I've been working on, is the doors and the hinges. As most people know, this is the really tricky part of this build. There's these parts here. This part here goes on the inside of the cab, and then these are the hinges that stick through to the outside, and then the interior part of the door and the exterior, and then top and bottom hinges that hook onto these two hooks here. So what I've done with the right hand door, I've mocked it up. I've taped this piece here on the inside, right here, with a piece of masking tape sticking through, and then I started out by taking the door shell on the exterior part and attaching the two top and bottom hinge with a piece of tape and putting it on and lining it up. And then when I got them lined up, I glued them on. And right now I've just got the interior shell taped on. And I just was mocking that up to see where everything would fit. What I had to do on the top part here, this part of the interior door, it's closed. This little indentation is closed off, I guess, so you can butt the hinge up against it and it'll stick out farther. What I had to do was cut that open so the hinge would go inside more, so that it'll actually close more flush. I've had to do a little scraping and sanding on the door itself to get it to fit, and I think I might have to put a thin piece of styrene on the inside of the body frame here just to keep the door from going too far inside. But so far it's looking pretty good. It might be off a little bit, but you can see some lower light here. The hinges will be sticking out. The door should be pretty well flush, and I guess looking pretty good considering to the issues I've seen other people have. If this works, I think I'll be happy with it, and I'll be doing pretty well. I found this picture on the internet of the door hinges. This is the proper way they should go according to the instructions, which looks counterintuitive to what you would think it would do, but this is the way it works best. I sprayed some black primer on the frame here, and on the chassis some dark gray primer, and I did black primer on the exhaust headers, and then with the Krylon chrome paint. Just gave them a few coats of that, so just add some contrast on the bottom of the van for these two different colors here. I noticed in some pictures of the actual Little Red Wagon that the engine was gold color, or yellow, sort of a yellowy gold with a black transmission. So I used some Craftsmart gold metallic paint and the black primer on the transmission. So I've airbrushed some gunmetal craft paint on the chassis here, just to cover up the gray primer, make it look more realistic. And I had to scrape off where that'll attach onto the floorboard. So if I'd have known then what I know now, what I would have done was glued this part here onto here before I painted it, and then sprayed the whole thing in black primer and black paint. But since I did them separately, I'm going to do them in the two different colors, and then I've had to scrape the paint off here so I can attach it properly. The kit came with 8 little chrome balls that fit onto the tops of the intake tubes, but when I was trying to glue the first one on, it took flight, so I left them off. The kit also provides this chrome tachometer, so I went online and printed out some tachometer faces in different scales and cut one out that looked close and glued it on. I painted the driver's seat in a deep red craft color to contrast a little bit with the red of the body color. Well, I've just attached the lower body onto the chassis here, glued everything in place. And it's looking pretty good. And I had the doors working really well, and the hinges worked fine, everything was working well. I glued the doorknobs on with some super glue, just crazy glue, just glued them on one each side, but I had the body hanging upside to dry, and I bumped it with my hand, and I guess I must have snapped off the little pin on the bottom of the hinge here, so now this is loose. I have to figure out some way of getting a little pin in there. So the hinges did work. I guess they were a little bit more fragile than I had thought, and I had busted one of them off, but other than that, they did work really well. I cut a couple of small pieces off a paper clip to use on the hinges to replace the broken pieces of plastic. Well, I just finished putting the decals on. They went on fairly well, but they were a little thin and brittle, and they tore in a few places. I managed to squeeze them back together as best I could. It's not too bad. With the gap in the door, of course, I had to cut them here. Well, it tore here to begin with, so I just separated it by the door gap there. But it's not too bad. I'm not going to put the decal on the front. There's supposed to be a decal on the front here, but because it's got Dodge here raised in raised letters, I don't want to try putting something over top of that. So I just have to do the front wheels now. The wheels do turn. I've got the front wheels here ready to go. I've got the backing plates on. They just have to snap on. And then there's a rod goes across, connecting rod for that to join the two. I guess they're posable. There's quite a gap in the doors, but it's about the best I could do with it. And then just glued the battery box, the gas tank, and the parachute on the back, and that should be it. Well, my little red wagon is done. It's all completed and cleared with Future. The wheels turn. The door does open, but when I replaced these hinge pins here with a piece of metal paper clip, this one here is a little bit loose. So if I pull the door open, that's going to pop open there. However, it does work on the other side a little better. They are fragile, but the door will open. As I said previously, the decals were a little bit flimsy, a little fragile. I put them on, and I put the setting solvent on them. There's a little bit of bubbling there, I guess, but I didn't want to play with them too much. I brushed a couple of coats of Future over it to seal everything up. You can see underneath. Got the front wheels on, and there's a bar here that attaches, runs across, so they're posable. Although when they're supposed to be facing straight forward, they're a little bit off. I think the bar is a little too short. But it's a nice looking car, a nice looking vehicle. It's a nice looking vehicle, but it's kind of a touchy little kit to build. I like the look of it. If I was to do it again, I think I would do it as a barn find, a weathered, rusted up barn find. You have the option of building it stock or the race version. I think if I was doing it again, I would do the stock version. I agonized over that at first, whether to do which way to do it, but I kind of wanted it to do the little red wagon version. So there it is. Since I built the Little Red Wagon drag version, these are the extra parts left over that go with the stock version. We didn't use the bumpers, the smaller engine, the stock tires, the engine cover, the extra seat, floor panels, all these different other parts here that were not used, that would be used with the stock version.